For decades, they said Willie Nelson forgave everyone. They were wrong. At 92, he's no longer protecting reputations, friendships, or legacies. These are the 7 artists he cut out of his life quietly, permanently, without ever saying why. Until now. Willie Nelson is 92 now. His hands are slower, and his voice has changed over the years. But the way he holds his guitar is still the same. The guitar, named Trigger, has dents, scratches, and worn wood from thousands of shows. Willie keeps it close, almost like it's a part of him. He still performs, not for fame or crowds, but because music is something he never stopped living through. Many people see him as calm, peaceful, and wise. Some call him the Buddha of country music. They imagine him as someone who forgives easily and never carries anger. But that is only one side of him. Willie is kind, but he is not someone who forgets. He remembers everything good and bad. Willie grew up knowing struggle, hard work, long nights, debts, pain, and loss followed him almost all his life. Music was the one thing that stayed steady. It helped him survive. He learned early that songs are not just entertainment, they are stories of real life. That is why he could write and sing in a way people felt deeply. Fans didn't just listen to Willie, they believed him. They believed him because nothing about his music felt fake. Over time, country music began to change. The industry became bigger, richer, and more focused on selling stars than telling stories. But Willie stayed the same. He toured small towns, played simple shows, and never cared about flashy performance. His music was about truth, not presentation. People respected him for that. Younger musicians admired him. Older musicians stood beside him. And fans loved him because he was real. But being real also meant he saw clearly when others changed. Willie watched friends, partners, and fellow musicians shift their values. Some chased fame. Some sought money. Some changed their image to fit the market. Some simply let ego or pride take over. Willie saw all of it, and although he didn't confront every situation, he remembered each one. On stage today, when the lights are softer and his voice has more space between each word, he sometimes pauses after a line. People think he is just old or tired, but often he is remembering. He remembers faces, conversations, and moments that never left him. He remembers the respect he gave and the times it was not returned. Those memories did not make him angry for life, but they did leave marks. There were musicians he trusted like brothers, people he believed understood him, people who rode buses with him, shared rooms, shared stages, laughed, smoked, planned, dreamed, and built a sound that changed American music. But relationships do not always end in fire or shouting. Sometimes they end slowly, quietly, over misunderstandings, jealousy, pride, or words spoken without care. Willie never forgot those moments. Even if he forgave, he never erased them. Living this long means outliving not just eras, but people. Willie has seen friends die, rivals fade, and trends come and go. He has seen country music rise, fall, split, and reshape itself again. People expect that with age, a person becomes peaceful and lets go of the past. And Willie has let go of many things. But he did not let go of the truth. He did not let go of honesty. And he did not pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. There are things Willie never spoke about publicly, not because he was afraid, but because he believed silence was a form of dignity. He chose not to embarrass, expose, or attack people who hurt him. He simply walked his own path and allowed time to speak. But time did not erase what happened. Time only made the memories clearer. Now, at 92, Willie is no longer interested in protecting the image of peace everyone expects from him. He is not trying to start fights, but he is no longer hiding the truth either. He has lived long enough to say things directly, without fear of reaction, judgment, or consequence. And when he finally looked back on his life, there were 7 names that did not fade. They called him the Buddha of country music, but even Buddha had a moment where silence broke. And it broke over 7 names, names he never thought he would have to speak out loud. In the early 1992s, country music began changing in ways many older musicians did not expect. For decades, country music had been rooted in simple storytelling, a person, a guitar, and a life story that was enough. The songs were about family, hard times, heartbreak, and mistakes. The music did not try to impress, it tried to connect. But when Garth Brooks became the biggest name in the industry, everything shifted. Garth brought a new style. He performed in huge arenas with lights, stages that moved, fireworks, and big crowds singing along. Many people loved it. The industry made more money than ever. But for Willie, something important was being lost. He felt that the heart of country music was being replaced by performance and showmanship. Willie had nothing personal against Garth when he first heard of him. He understood that every new generation changes music. But what troubled Willie was how fast the industry changed to follow Garth's model. Record labels began choosing artists who looked like stars, instead of artists who had lived the stories they were singing about. Marketing teams and image consultants became more important than songwriting. Country music started to look more polished, more controlled, and more commercial. To Willie, this was the opposite of what country had always been. He believed country music should come from honesty, not from design. Garth came from a different world. He was a powerful performer with a strong voice, and he knew how to move a crowd. His concerts were loud and full of energy. He treated country music like rock music, big, exciting, and dramatic. Fans loved it, and Garth rose to the top quickly. He broke sales records, sold out stadiums, and became the face of modern country. The industry celebrated him for making country music mainstream and global. But Willie watched all of this with discomfort. He did not see a problem with success, but he saw a problem with performance being valued more than truth. People who worked with Willie at the time said he would sometimes watch Garth's performances on television and sit quietly, not angry, just disappointed. Willie believed that if someone sings about struggle, they should have lived struggle. If someone sings about heartbreak, they should have known heartbreak. Willie felt that Garth's songs were more crafted than lived. To some people, that didn't matter, but to Willie, it meant everything. Music, for him, was not supposed to be entertainment first. It was supposed to be life first. The moment that defined their divide came in 2004 at the Country Music Hall of Fame event. Garth was on stage talking about Willie, honoring him, calling him the conscience of country music. The crowd loved it. They saw it as a touching tribute between 2 major names in the industry. But Willie did not see it that way. To him, Garth's words did not feel real. Willie felt that praising the conscience of country music while promoting a version of country that, in his eyes, had lost its soul was empty. When the cameras were off, the hallway was quiet. Willie approached Garth. There were no raised voices, no insults, just one line spoken calmly and clearly. Willie said, "Next time, sing it like you mean it." Those who were nearby felt the weight of that sentence. It was not loud, it was not dramatic, but it was final. The meaning behind it was simple. Don't speak about truth if you don't live it. Word spread quickly across Nashville. It was not treated like a public fight, but people understood that something had changed. After that night, Willie did not join Garth for duets, shared shows, or collaboration projects. When large events invited both, Willie declined. Some people said he was being stubborn. Others said he was protecting something sacred. Willie did not explain or defend his choice. He simply kept doing what he always did, playing his guitar, writing simple songs, and performing in his own quiet way. Willie was not upset that Garth was successful. He was upset that the definition of country music had changed because of that success. To Willie, country music was not supposed to be perfect. It was supposed to be human. When Garth's style took over the industry, many older songwriters felt pushed aside. Songs became more about hooks and less about experience. Production became more important than raw emotion. The music sounded cleaner, but it felt less real. Willie saw that as a loss, not a gain. In interviews, Willie never openly attacked Garth. He did not insult him or criticize him directly. That was not his way. But when people asked him about the direction of modern country music, Willie would say that some artists were performing instead of telling the truth. Everyone knew who he meant, even if he didn't say the name. Some younger fans argue that Garth helped country music grow. Some older fans say he helped it lose its identity. Both views exist, and both are discussed even today. But for Willie, the issue was never about popularity or money. It was about authenticity. Willie built his life around being honest in his music. He believed that if the music stopped being honest, then it stopped being country. This wasn't just disagreement. This was the night Willie believed country music died. But Garth wasn't the only one Willie felt had traded truth for the spotlight. When Shania Twain rose to fame in the late 1992, she brought a new sound and style that Nashville had not seen before. Her music blended country with pop, dance rhythms, and polished production. She wore modern stage outfits, choreographed her shows, and made music videos that looked more like MTV than traditional country television. For many listeners, this was exciting and fresh. It made country music feel global and modern. But for Willie Nelson, this change was difficult to accept. He had spent his entire life fighting to keep country music honest and rooted in real-life stories. To him, Shania's style did not feel connected to that. It felt designed for charts, radio play, and commercial success. Willie never disliked Shania as a person. He respected her hard work and her ability to connect with millions of fans. But he believed her music represented a shift where image was becoming more important than authenticity. Songs were being shaped to fit radio trends. Production was becoming more digital and less organic. Dance moves and costume changes were becoming part of performances. Willie felt that the emotional weight of the music was being replaced by entertainment. The storytelling that defined country music was getting lost behind bright lights and pop melodies. Nashville welcomed Shania's success with open arms. Record labels saw huge profits. Award shows saw higher ratings. Music videos became flashier. Many new artists began to follow the same style. They saw Shania prove that country could be commercial worldwide, and they wanted to do the same. The industry began guiding artists toward crossover sounds. Country music was shifting from something personal to something market-focused. Willie watched this happen, not with anger, but with sadness. He believed country music had always been a reflection of real life, not a performance meant to impress. One of the clearest moments that showed the divide between Willie and Shania happened at the CMA Awards. It was a night full of excitement. Shania was the center of attention. She had several hit songs on the charts, and the industry was celebrating her rise. That night, Shania won Entertainer of the Year, which is one of the highest honors in country music. People clapped, cheered, and smiled. Cameras showed fans crying with joy. The moment was important for her career and for the future direction of the genre. But when the camera turned to Willie, his face did not match the room. He sat still, clapped politely, and kept his expression calm. It was not anger, it was disappointment. To Willie, the award wasn't just recognizing success. It was declaring a new identity for country music. And that identity did not match the values he grew up with. The award meant that the industry was no longer valuing the storytelling and reality of country life. It was valuing global appeal, radio plays, fashion, and spectacle. Backstage after the show, Shania approached Willie. She came to greet him with kindness, possibly hoping to share a moment of respect between two major figures. She smiled and reached out for a handshake. Willie nodded at her politely, but he did not stop, and he did not speak. He walked past without expression. People nearby noticed the moment. It felt cold. Some saw it as Willie being rude. Others understood it as Willie protecting something he believed in. For Willie, this was not about jealousy or dislike. It was about the meaning of country music. He felt that Shania's rise showed that the industry now valued entertainment over honesty. He believed music should come from real experiences, not from what sells best. He felt that when country music left its roots, it became something else entirely. Shania continued to succeed worldwide. Her songs reached audiences far outside the United States. Her music videos became iconic. She influenced a new generation of artists, many of whom also blended genres. And in many ways, Shania helped country music grow into a global brand. But to Willie, growth meant nothing if it came at the cost of truth. He believed music should always stay grounded, even if the world around it changes. It is important to understand that Willie never attacked Shania in public. He never insulted her or criticized her directly. He simply distanced himself. He stopped attending events where pop country was being celebrated. He stopped appearing on mixed-genre award lineups. He quietly removed himself from that part of the industry. He did not argue. He just stepped away. Fans have different views on this. Some say Shania made country music fun and inclusive. Others say she helped the genre lose its emotional center. Both sides have reasons. But Willie saw it from a personal place. He spent his life believing country music should be about real struggle, real love, real heartache, and real experience. When he saw the genre become polished and commercial, he felt that something meaningful had been lost. To Willie, country music should bleed, not dance under neon lights. The situation with Shania was not full of conflict or loud disagreements. It was parrot, quiet, and simple. Willie saw a change he could not agree with, and he accepted that he could not stop it. But this was not the deepest wound he carried. The deepest one did not come from a newcomer or a rising star. It came from someone he once called a brother. Yet the deepest wound wasn't a newcomer, it was a brother. Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings were more than musicians working in the same field. They were brothers in the kind of way that only grows from shared struggle. In the 1,960 seconds and 70 seconds, country music was tightly controlled by record labels in Nashville. Artists were told how to sound, how to dress, and even what to sing. Many musicians accepted these rules because they wanted to stay in the business. But Willie and Waylon did not. They believed music should be real, not shaped by executives. They wanted freedom to write what they lived, not what they were told. This shared belief became the start of the outlaw country movement. Life in the beginning was not easy for either of them. They traveled city to city in broken-down buses. Some nights they played to nearly empty bars, paid barely enough to cover gas. They sometimes slept in the bus instead of hotels because they couldn't afford rooms. They shared cigarettes, cheap meals, and conversations that lasted until sunrise. They both understood the feeling of fighting for a place in an industry that did not want to accept them. Willie had his guitar and quiet strength. Waylon had a louder voice and a tough personality. Together, they made each other stronger. As the outlaw movement grew, their friendship grew too. They recorded songs together, played shows together, and stood beside each other when the industry criticized them. Their music was different from what Nashville wanted. It was rough around the edges, full of pain, truth, and real life. People related to it. Fans gathered around Willie and Waylon because they were the kind of artists who did not pretend. They were not clean or polished. They were human. And that honesty made them icons. But success changes everything. When the outlaw movement began reaching mainstream audiences, the industry that once rejected them now wanted to use them. Suddenly, they were not outsiders anymore. They were stars. Newspapers and magazines started printing headlines with their names together. Willie and Waylon became a brand. The problem was that the order of the names never changed. It was always Willie first. Some said it was because Willie wrote more songs. Others said it was because his public image was easier to market. But for Waylon, it slowly became a wound. People close to both men say the jealousy did not show itself at first. It grew quietly. Waylon was proud of Willie's success, but he also felt overlooked. When fans cheered Willie louder at concerts, Waylon felt it. When Willie was invited to interviews more often, Waylon noticed. When music critics talked about the outlaw movement, they often mentioned Willie first. Even though they had built the movement together, Waylon often felt like the second name in a story he helped create. Waylon never told Willie this directly. Instead, the feeling showed in small ways. He arrived late to studio sessions more often. He argued with producers over song credits. He sometimes made jokes that did not feel like jokes. Willie did not respond to any of it. He simply continued making music. Willie did not like conflict. He believed silence was sometimes stronger than argument, but silence does not always fix what is breaking. The moment that cracked their relationship happened in the early 1980 seconds during a joint interview. Reporters asked questions about the outlaw movement. They wanted to know how two strong personalities worked together. Waylon, half joking but also half serious, said, "Willie's just a hippie in cowboy boots who forgot where he came from." The reporters laughed. They thought it was playful teasing, but Willie did not laugh. For him, those words were not just a joke, they were a cut aimed at his character. Willie did not argue back. He did not raise his voice. He did not explain himself or defend anything. He just stopped talking and walked away. People in the room felt the shift immediately. After that day, something between them was different. They did not fight. They simply stopped calling each other as often. They stopped writing songs together. Industry people noticed it, but nobody tried to force them back together. They understood something personal had changed. As the years passed, the distance grew. They still respected each other. They still spoke kindly about one another in public, but the closeness they once had was gone. Willie kept touring and playing music his own way. Waylon continued recording, but his health began to decline. He struggled with addiction and other health problems. Life moved forward, and the shared road between them slowly faded behind. When Waylon died, in 2002, many expected Willie to attend the funeral. They had been partners in music history. They had been brothers. But Willie did not go. Instead, he sent flowers and a short handwritten note that said, "See you on the road somewhere." Some people judged him for not being there, but those who understood him knew it was not disrespect. It was grief. Willie could not stand in that room and face the weight of what was lost. He chose silence, just as he had chosen silence the day the friendship cracked. Willie never spoke badly about Waylon. Even after years of distance, even after the hurt, he always called Waylon one of the greats. He always acknowledged his importance in his life and in music, but he did not pretend the friendship had ended in peace. Sometimes the deepest pain does not come from enemies. It comes from those who once stood closest. People often imagine that friendships end with arguments, shouting, or dramatic breakups. But Willie learned that love does not always end loudly. Sometimes it ends quietly, in words that are never taken back, in calls that are never made again, in the empty seat beside you on the bus. Love doesn't always end with shouting. Sometimes it ends with silence. The hurt with Waylon was personal. It came from brotherhood, pride, memory, and time. But the next break in Willie's life did not come from someone close to him. It came from a very different place, one that touched the entire country. The next break wasn't about music at all. It was about patriotism. After the attacks of the 11th of September, 2001, the atmosphere in the United States changed deeply. The country was grieving, scared, angry, and searching for unity. Music played a big role during that time. Many artists wrote songs that expressed pain or strength. Some wrote songs to comfort people. Others wrote songs that called for action. Toby Keith became one of the most visible musical voices during this time. He released Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, a song that was loud, aggressive, and full of patriotic emotion. Many people loved it. They saw it as strong and proud. But Willie Nelson did not feel the same way. Willie believed that music should bring people together and help them heal. Music, to him, was supposed to speak directly to the heart. It was supposed to understand pain, not turn it into a weapon. When Willie listened to Toby's song, he felt it was meant to provoke rather than comfort. He felt it used anger instead of understanding. Willie once said during a private conversation, "A guitar should never wave a flag." He meant that music should not be used to push political ideas or divide people emotionally. It should help people feel less alone. Toby Keith saw things differently. He believed his song showed loyalty to the country and honored the people who were hurting. To him, the strong tone of the song was a form of protection, not division. He thought music could be loud, proud, and forceful when a nation was under emotional attack. Toby's approach was about rallying, creating energy, unity, and strong feelings. Willie respected the emotion, but he could not accept the approach. Their different beliefs came into full conflict at a veteran benefit concert in Austin. Willie was invited to perform small, soft songs for veterans who had returned from war, carrying heavy emotional wounds. Willie believed these men and women needed understanding, peace, and quiet support. His performance was calm and gentle, with slow guitar and thoughtful words. The room was quiet, filled with emotion and reflection. Toby Keith performed after Willie. His performance was loud, full of excitement and strong statements. He waved a large American flag, shouted patriotic lines, and encouraged the crowd to cheer loudly. Many in the audience were moved by the passion, but Willie watched from backstage and felt a deep discomfort. He believed the event was meant to acknowledge pain, not to turn it into a show. For Willie, the flag was something personal, not something to be raised during a performance for effect. He thought the moment required care, not spectacle. After the performance, Willie approached Toby. There was no yelling. Willie simply spoke his truth. "You're using music to fight, not to heal." Toby did not take the comment seriously. He laughed, thinking Willie was being overly sensitive or old-fashioned. That response is what changed everything. Willie realized they were not just two musicians with different opinions. They were two people who saw the purpose of music in completely different ways. From that day, Willie quietly distanced himself. He refused to play at the same events where Toby was performing. If an event organizer listed Toby's name anywhere on the lineup, Willie withdrew. He did not announce this publicly. He did not criticize Toby in interviews. He simply chose not to share the same stage. For Willie, music was something sacred. If he believed something damaged the spirit of music, he stepped away. Some people in the industry thought Willie was overreacting. Others understood him completely. Toby Keith had become a symbol of a louder, more commercial type of patriotism. Willie believed patriotism was something quiet and personal, something shown through kindness, not performance. Willie had spent his whole life valuing authenticity in music. He believed that when music becomes a tool for influence, it loses honesty. Over time, people noticed the distance between the two musicians. Toby sometimes tried to explain himself in interviews, saying that his music was just a reflection of how he felt and what he believed. Willie did not respond. He did not argue. He simply continued making the music he believed in. He never changed his values, even as the industry around him changed. Years later, Toby tried to send a message through a mutual friend. The message said he never meant harm and hoped there would be no bitterness. Willie did not reply. Not because he hated Toby, but because he believed some differences cannot be debated into agreement. They come from deeply different views about life and purpose. And when two people see the world that differently, they eventually walk different roads. What made the divide painful for Willie was not that Toby was successful or popular. It was that Willie once believed Toby understood what music was supposed to stand for. Willie thought they shared the same idea of what country music meant. When he realized they did not, it was a quiet kind of heartbreak. Not anger, just disappointment. Willie believed music healed. Toby believed music rallied. The break with Toby was not the loudest or the most emotional, but it was a turning point in how Willie looked at the future of country music. He saw that the industry was moving toward bigger shows, louder messages, and stronger public statements. He saw music becoming less personal and more symbolic, and that hurt him more than any argument ever could. But the story did not end here. The next break in Willie's life did not come from music style or public performance. It came from something far more personal, an unexpected wound from someone he once trusted fully. And then came a betrayal Willie never expected from someone who had once been a friend. Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard had known each other for many years. They came from the same world of long roads, small-town bars, and songs written from real-life experience. Both had been poor, both had worked through hardship, and both had built careers that turned them into legends. There was always a strong respect between them. They were not best friends in the daily sense, but they understood each other deeply. When they shared a stage or recorded together, the music felt natural. It came from honesty, not effort. Fans saw them as brothers in the story of country music. They worked together on several songs and tours. When they performed, their chemistry was clear. Merle admired Willie's calm strength, and Willie respected Merle's raw storytelling. Both men knew what it felt like to struggle, to rise, and to carry the weight of fame. Their connection was built on experience, not just music. But even solid relationships can be affected by small moments. Sometimes it is not a big disagreement that causes distance. Sometimes it is a small, careless moment that stays in someone's mind. For Willie and Merle, that moment happened on stage during a joint performance. They were playing in front of a crowd that loved both of them. The show was relaxed, friendly, and full of laughter. People expected an easy night of music and shared memories. During the performance, Merle made a comment about Willie's well-known love for marijuana. Willie had always been open about it. He used it for calm, for creativity, and to deal with stress. It was part of his life. Most of the time, jokes about it never bothered him. He was used to them. But this joke felt different. Merle said into the microphone in front of the crowd, "Weed's a lazy man's crutch." The audience laughed. It sounded like harmless humor, but Willie did not laugh. Willie did not respond on stage. He finished the song, thanked the crowd, and walked off quietly. People backstage noticed the change. Willie wasn't angry or loud. He was silent. For someone like Willie, silence meant the hurt was real. The issue was not about weed itself. It was about respect. Coming from Merle, the comment felt less like a joke and more like a dismissal of who Willie was and what he stood for. Willie believed that music was about being yourself. He had spent his whole life defending the idea that a musician should live honestly. When Merle said that line, it felt like he was saying Willie was not serious about his craft. It felt personal, not playful. It hurt more because it came from someone he admired. The days and weeks after, the performance were quiet. There was no fight, no argument, no angry statements. They simply stopped working closely together. Plans for a joint album slowly faded away. Calls stopped. Invitations became less frequent. The distance grew naturally. No one talked about it publicly, but people who knew them could feel the change. Disappointment is often deeper than anger. Anger burns fast and fades. Disappointment stays. Willie did not hate Merle. He never spoke badly about him. But the trust between them did not fully return. Willie believed that when someone understands your life, they should honor it. Merle's joke made Willie feel misunderstood by someone he thought understood him best. Years later, Merle tried to fix things. He sent messages through friends, saying he did not mean harm. But the relationship never went back to what it had been. Willie accepted the apology, but the bond did not rebuild. They performed together again a few times, but the closeness was gone. The music was still good, but something invisible had changed. When Merle passed away in 2016, Willie spoke about him with great respect. He called him one of the greatest songwriters and singers country music had ever known. But people noticed what Willie did not say. He did not call him his closest friend. He did not talk about brotherhood. The love was still there, but the deep connection had been replaced by memory. This story shows something important about Willie. He does not hold lifelong anger. He does not fight or argue to prove a point. But he never forgets when someone crosses a line that touches his core. To Willie, loyalty and respect are quiet agreements. When they break, there is no shouting, just distance. Forgiveness is easy. Forgetting is not. The hurt with Merle came from the stage, from one line spoken without thought. But the next wound in Willie's life did not happen in front of lights or audiences. It happened in private, around people who were supposed to be safe. But some wounds come not from the stage, but from the dinner table. Willie Nelson and Kristofferson shared a bond that lasted through most of their careers. They were not just musicians who worked together. They respected each other as writers, thinkers, and survivors. They both believed that songs should come from real-life experience, and that truth mattered more than fame. They wrote together, toured together, and supported each other at key moments in their lives. If you asked either of them during those years, they would have said the friendship was real and deep. Kris admired Willie for his calm nature and the ease with which he wrote songs. Willie admired Kris for his sharp mind, strong words, and discipline. Kris had been a soldier and a scholar before music, and Willie respected that strength. They came from different pasts, but they both understood what it meant to live through struggle and build themselves back up. They were brothers in a shared belief that music was not just sound, it was identity. But friendships can change slowly, quietly, without either person noticing until the distance is already there. As time went on, Kris became more involved in political and social work. He attended events, gave speeches, and used his platform to express his beliefs. Willie was also outspoken, but he always tried to speak with gentleness. His approach was to share ideas through calm conversation and music, not through strong public statements. They still respected each other, but their paths were no longer the same. The moment that changed everything happened at a private fundraiser in the mid-2000s. It was a small event, mostly writers, musicians, and a few reporters who had been invited quietly. Willie performed a soft, thoughtful song about war, loss, and the lives of working people. The room was quiet and emotional. It was the kind of music that made people listen closely, not clap loudly. After the performance, Willie stepped aside and joined a small group of friends. Kris was nearby, talking with others at the table. He had been drinking, and his words came out more freely than usual. Surrounded by laughter and casual conversation, Kris made a comment that would change their friendship forever. He said, "Willie's turned into more of a mascot than a musician." It was said like a joke, something to make others laugh. And people did laugh, but Willie heard it. To someone else, that sentence might have seemed small, but to Willie, it was a direct hit at everything he valued. To call someone a mascot is to say they are a symbol, not a person. It suggests their music no longer matters, that their purpose is only to represent an idea instead of create something meaningful. Coming from a stranger, Willie would have ignored it. But it came from Kris, someone he trusted, respected, and believed understood him. Willie did not confront him. He did not ask what he meant or try to explain his feelings. He simply stood up, walked out of the room, and left the event. There was no scene, no argument, just silence and distance. That was how Willie handled pain, quietly. The next morning, Willie's assistant canceled the duet project they had been planning. Calls were not returned. Invitations were left unanswered. Kris tried to reach out once through a mutual friend, saying he had spoken without thinking. He said it was a careless moment, but the damage had been done. Willie believed that some words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. They leave a mark. To Willie, that sentence did not just hurt his pride. It made him feel unseen. He had spent his whole life staying true to who he was. He had never performed for approval. He had never tried to become an image. And to be told that he had become a mascot, especially by someone he trusted, was a wound that did not heal. They were never enemies. They simply stopped being close. When asked about Kris in public, Willie always spoke, respectfully. He called him a great writer, a great performer, and an important part of country music. But the warmth, the connection, the feeling of brotherhood was gone. It had ended in one sentence. People often assume that the biggest heartbreaks come from public fights or dramatic disagreements. But sometimes, the greatest pain comes from quiet words, spoken casually, without thought. These are the words that do not fade. Sometimes the quietest goodbye is also the sharpest. The break with Kris was not the end of Willie's story. There was still one more name, one more wound, one more betrayal he never talked about openly. But this last one was different. It was the one he never wanted to say out loud. But there was still one more name, a final betrayal Willie refused to ever speak of publicly. When Willie Nelson agreed to record a song with Kid Rock, most people were surprised. Willie was known for calm, honest music, while Kid Rock was known for loud energy and mixing genres like rock, rap, and country. Their worlds were very different, but Willie had always believed in giving people a chance. He did not judge artists by their image. If someone came to him with a real idea, he was willing to listen. That is how the studio session began. Two musicians with different styles, trying to create something new. Kid Rock had approached Willie during a time when he was exploring country music more deeply. He was trying to build an identity in Nashville. Some saw him as a visitor, not someone who had lived the life behind the songs, but he admired Willie and wanted to make something together that felt bold and outlaw. Willie liked the idea of breaking rules in music, so he agreed to try. The session took place in a Nashville studio. Willie arrived quietly, holding trigger, his guitar. He was calm and ready to work. Kid Rock arrived later, loud, energetic, and already in party mode. He brought friends, drinks, and his own speakers. The studio felt less like a workspace and more like a celebration. At first, Willie did not say anything. He had seen many personalities in his life. He believed in letting people be themselves. They began working on the song. Willie offered simple, thoughtful melody lines. His voice was steady and controlled. Kid Rock wanted something bigger, louder, and more intense. Their ideas did not match. Willie tried to guide the music into something meaningful. Kid Rock pushed it toward something wild. There was no easy middle ground. As they continued, the room became louder. Kid Rock turned up the volume, wanting the track to sound aggressive and raw. He encouraged the band to play harder and shouted instructions over the music. Willie stayed calm, but it was clear the two artists were not hearing music in the same way. Willie believed a song should carry emotion through softness and honesty. Kid Rock believed emotion came from energy and force. The moment that changed everything was small, but clear. Willie suggested lowering the volume and simplifying one part of the chorus so the words could be understood better. Kid Rock laughed and said, "Come on, old man, loosen up." He said it jokingly, but the words cut deep. The room went quiet for a moment. People looked around, waiting to see how Willie would react. Willie did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He simply took off his headphones, set them down, and walked out of the studio. There was no anger, no speech, no goodbye. He left with trigger in his hand and did not return. The musicians in the room did not know what to do. The session ended right there. The track they were working on was never finished. It was never released. Over time, it became something people whispered about in music circles, a collaboration that existed for only a few hours and disappeared forever. Kid Rock later hinted in interviews that the session just didn't vibe. He never explained the real reason. Willie never spoke about it publicly. The reason Willie walked out was simple. He believed music should come from respect, not just respect for the artist, but respect for the process. To Willie, the studio is a place for listening, patience, and understanding. It is not a place to shout over others, to push for power, or to treat music like a performance. When Kid Rock laughed at him, it wasn't just a joke. It showed that they were not working with the same values. Willie did not hate Kid Rock. He did not try to damage his career. He simply removed himself. If Willie feels that a situation does not honor music, he will not stay in it. That is how he has always lived. For him, silence is stronger than argument. Some fires are better left unlit. The story of the unfinished song stayed quiet for years. Only people who were in the room knew the truth. Willie never corrected stories or gave his side. He let the moment become part of the past. But silence does not mean the memory is gone. So why did Willie stay silent for so long? And why speak now? Willie Nelson has lived long enough to see the world around him change many times. He has watched country music rise, fall, and reshape itself again and again. He has seen friends come and go, movements start and end, and beliefs shift with time. Through all of this, Willie has held one clear understanding. Life will give you wounds, but you choose what to do with them. He does not believe every wound must be healed. Some wounds stay because they remind you of who you are and what matters to you. Willie never built his life around anger. He is not the kind of person who holds grudges to punish others. But he does remember. Memory, for Willie, is part of identity. The people who hurt him are part of his story, just like the people who loved him. To erase those memories would be to erase pieces of his life. So he carries them, quietly, without bitterness, but also without pretending they didn't happen. At 92, the past does not feel far away to him. He still remembers the early days when music was small and personal. He remembers writing songs in cheap apartments, playing for people who didn't always listen, and holding on to music because it was the one thing that felt honest. Those memories shape how he sees the world now. When he watches younger artists become famous quickly, or when he sees the industry turn real experiences into marketable products, he does not get angry. He just feels the distance. Willie believes music should come from the soul. To him, a song is not just sound or entertainment. It is a reflection of who a person is and what they have lived. When someone sings about heartbreak, the listener should be able to feel that heartbreak. When someone sings about loneliness, it should come from a place that was truly lonely. Music that is just created to sell records or to impress crowds feels empty to him. He has always believed that music must be honest, even when honesty is difficult. This belief is why the betrayals in his life hurt so deeply. They were not just personal conflicts. They felt like betrayals of what music should stand for. When someone he respected changed their values or treated music like a product instead of a life, Willie felt the loss not just as a friend, but as a musician. That is why some wounds stayed. They were tied to something bigger than personal feeling. They were tied to the meaning of music itself. Willie also understands legacy. He knows that people see him as a symbol of country music. He has been called the conscience of the genre, the one who stayed true when others changed. But Willie does not think of himself that way. To him, he simply lived the only way he knew how. He did not choose to be a symbol, he just tried to be honest. But he also understands that people look at him and see history. They see a connection to a time when music was personal, simple, and real. As he gets older, Willie has become more reflective. He looks back on his life and sees both the beauty and the pain. He has forgiven many things, but forgiveness does not mean forgetting. Forgetting would mean letting go of the lessons. The lessons shaped him. He learned who could be trusted, who could not, and what it means to stay true to oneself when the world pushes for compromise. Willie's silence over the years was not weakness or fear, it was dignity. He believed that some things did not need to be said out loud. He believed that time reveals truth without anyone needing to point fingers. But time has also given Willie a clarity that only age can bring. He no longer feels the need to protect images or reputations. He no longer worries about how his words will be received. At his age, honesty feels like the only thing that matters. Not every wound is meant to heal. Some are meant to teach. So, what happens when the conscience of country music decides to tell the truth? Willie Nelson's life has stretched across generations of music, culture, and change. He has been a young songwriter, struggling to be heard, a middle-aged man carrying the outlaw movement forward, and now an elder who has seen nearly everything in the world of country music. People look at Willie and see history, both the part that is celebrated and the part that is difficult to talk about. In that way, Willie has become something like a mirror. When people talk about him, they are really talking about what country music used to be and what it has become. The stories of his feuds are not just about disagreements between musicians. They are reflections of how the music changed over time. In the beginning, country music was small, local, and personal. It came from kitchens, back porches, farms, and long nights on the road. It was built from working-class stories and lived experience. As the world changed, the music changed too. It became bigger, louder, more polished, and more profitable. For some people, that was growth. For others, like Willie, it felt like something real was being lost. Willie never fought these changes in public. He let other people do what they believed was right. He did not try to stop the industry from moving forward, but he did not move with it. He stayed with the simplicity he believed in, a guitar, a voice, and truth. That was enough for him. It was enough for his fans, too, and it kept him grounded no matter what was happening around him. Over the years, some people tried to paint Willie as someone who held grudges. But that is not the full story. Willie did not keep score. He did not try to win or prove anything. He simply remembered. He remembered the moments when the music felt pure and shared. He remembered the friendships that were built on respect and trust. And he remembered the moments when that trust changed. Time softened the anger, but it did not erase the memories. When Willie looked back on his experiences with people like Garth Brooks, Shania Twain, Waylon Jennings, Toby Keith, Merle Haggard, and Kristofferson, he did not see enemies. He saw people who took different roads. He saw how fame and pressure shaped choices. He understood that people change, and careers change, and music changes. But he also understood that truth stays. The truth of who a person is, what they believe, and how they treat others, that does not go away. For Willie, music has always been more than sound. It has been identity. When the music stayed honest, Willie stayed close. When the music turned into product, branding, and performance, Willie stepped back. His distance was not about punishment, it was about staying true to himself. Age has given Willie a different kind of peace. He no longer needs to explain or defend his decisions. People who understand him do not need explanations. People who do not understand him would not be convinced anyway. He has lived long enough to accept both. The tensions, the distance, and the quiet endings between him and others say something larger about country music itself. The genre has been pulled between truth and entertainment, between lived experience and market success, between quiet honesty and public display. Willie represents one side of that divide, the side that believes music should always come from real life first. In the end, Willie didn't keep score. He just remembered. He remembered the laughter on buses, the nights when songs came out of nowhere, and the moments when music felt like family. He also remembered the silences, the comments that cut deep, and the days when friendships faded without a single argument. Memory is the map of his life. He carries it without bitterness, but also without forgetting. Now, after decades of silence, distance, and quiet reflection, something has changed. Willie is not trying to start new arguments. He is not trying to blame anyone. But he is finally ready to say things as they really were, not to hurt others, but to tell the truth, before his voice is gone. And now, at 92, there is only one story left to tell the truth about why he finally decided to speak.